Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm your Blue Cross Blue Shield and Michigan Wellbeing Coordinator, and we're going to do a quick, easy fried cabbage recipe. Very simple ingredients, doesn't take much to make, and you can make it in bigger batches to feed a bigger amount of people. So this will make 4 to 5 servings depending on how big each person's serving. So if you want to make it for a larger group, just double the recipe. What I have here is 1 green cabbage. You can use red as well. So 1 head of that. I have 6 sausages here. These are chicken sausages. You could also use kielbasa. You could use smoked sausage, whatever you feel like you want to use. But there's 6 of them here, just cut up in little round like pieces. So you can do it that way. So that you just need to double it if you want to make it for a bigger crowd. So I'm going to get started cooking this. In my pan I have it on medium high. I have some olive oil in there that I'm just going to swirl around. You can use butter for this recipe if you would like to. It'll just make it a little creamier compared to olive oil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add my garlic. So you can use minced garlic, or if you do not have that on hand, you'll just use the garlic powder later on in the recipe. So you can skip this step. So I'm going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of garlic depending on how much garlic you like. I'm just going to finish off this garlic, sauteing it, mixing that around, just really kind of getting it a little bit golden brown in the pan. And if you have an onion, you can use that. You would use 1 onion, just dicing it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Throwing that and sauteing it with the onion in there. I don't have an onion on hand, so I'm just going to use the garlic for today, but just use 1 onion, dicing it up, saute it till it's a little translucent, lightly golden. So I'm going to let that cook. As that's cooking, I'm going to chop up my cabbage. So for this, I'm just going to cut it lengthwise, make little small strips in there. Nice little arm workout in as you're chopping this up. You'll get a lot out, especially depending on how big your cabbage head is. Then I'm going to turn it on its side, cut it up this way. Okay, so now that I have this, you can cut it up even smaller, or you can leave it in these strips. Totally up to you. I'm going to leave it in the strips, so it's kind of like longer little strips. This is going to be, you can even just rip it up as you're putting it in the pan. It's definitely going to cook down. So I'll throw that in there. As you can see, this is making a ton. So just depending on everybody's serving size. Throw the rest in there. And then what we're going to do, you're going to add, and this is optional, it just adds a little bit of flavor, a little bit of sweetness to it. But say another thing that you don't have on hand, that is totally fine. You're still going to get those flavors in the recipe. You're going to add some balsamic vinegar. So you can add 1 to 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and I just kind of like sprinkle it over the top. You can always add more afterwards. And then I'm going to add my salt, about a teaspoon of salt, just sprinkling that over. And then this is where you can also add your onion and garlic if you don't have that. So you can add that onion to it, and I'm just going to add about a ½ teaspoon of onion powder to that recipe. I'm going to mix this around, kind of just letting the seasoning coat some of this. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just lightly, because I don't want anything to spill out. Just want the sauce to be able to get soaked down to the bottom. Now, The key thing is if you add butter to it, I always add this at the end, but you can add it at the beginning, and you'll just melt it over the top of that. So I'm going to put the lid on there and let it cook down just a little bit, keeping it nice and high. And I'm also now, I'm going to add paprika. I forgot to add that. So you're just going to add about a teaspoon of paprika to that. Mixing that around, really kind of cooking this till it gets soft. So I'm just going to put the lid on and let it cook. And as that's cooking, you can cut up your sausage in there and throw that in. I'm just going to let it sit there a couple minutes, get all put some heat on it. As that's doing it, I'm going to chop up that butter. You can omit the butter if you want to. You don't have to have it in this recipe. It's best, it's whatever, up to your dietary needs, especially if you can't have dairy. You can always add ghee to this recipe. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter to this. Just kind of sticking it down here. Just letting it melt down. So after that's done, you give it just a couple minutes. I'm going to put the sausage in there, and you're just going to let it all cook and marinate together for about like 10 minutes. And then once it's done, you'll be ready to go, ready to serve. And that is really all that is needed for the recipe. You can see it's kind of, you hear it sizzling. The cabbage is getting a little softer. Just gonna mix that around. Really getting that garlic incorporated into there. And you can always add afterwards just a little bit more garlic if you feel like you want a little more garlic flavor to it. So now I'm going to add the sausage. And if your sausage is not like cooked or smoked or anything like that, you would cook that at the beginning with the garlic and onion. So that's something that you would just cook at the beginning, so you don't have to. These ones are kind of already smoked. You can use kielbasa, like I said. You don't have to use like chicken sausage. But I'm going to let these all cook, marinate together. And there you have it. So cook it on just medium high for about 10 minutes. Let it all cook. The stuff will cabbage will be nice and translucent, soft, and ready to eat. And that is your fried cabbage and sausage recipe. Feel free to omit the sausage, especially if it does not fit your dietary needs. But other than that, have a wonderful day. Thanks.